Well, there you go. Some rip-snorting rockabilly courtesy of Flat Duo Jets going back to 1995 for that track. Whoa, Blue Baby, written by Dexter Romweber, who was obviously one half of Flat Duo Jets. The band formed in 1985 in North Carolina, had a string of records. They broke up around 1998, always been staples on this radio station, though. And now Dex is back with a brand new record. It's the Dex Romweber Duo. It's him and his sister, Sarah. The new disc is called Ruins of Berlin, and Dex, you've got some of my favorite people in the world singing with you on this album.
Oh, good.
Like Cat Power.
Yeah.
And Nico Case, and you've toured with Cat Power, and have you toured with Nico Case before?
Yes, I have, but not in a few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, many years ago, I've done a few tours with her.
Now, I got to ask you, apart from your original songs, which are great,
thank you.
Flat Duo Jets were known for doing amazing cover versions, rocket-fueled versions of some well-known songs and some really obscure songs, too. So I imagine you must have an incredible record collection.
Well, I do. I actually had a fire many years ago that destroyed a lot of my collection, but I'm slowly rebuilding it up.
Have you moved on into the world of, MP3s and iPods and all that kind of stuff, or are you still, actually playing records?
I'm still mostly listening to records and CDs and cassettes.
Yeah.
But, I haven't moved on to the iPod scene yet.
Of course, there's always that argument that, vinyl always sounds better, and vinyl's coming back, too.
Well, I agree. I mean, I've always liked vinyl myself, definitely. And there's just, they sort of breathe a little bit or something.
Yeah.
I still like 45s in terms of the best sound off, the best sound I've ever heard were off 45s.
Were you collecting old 45s when you were getting into music? Because it's kind of rare, for someone in the 80s to get into old Sun Records releases or Eddie Cochran 45s or Little Richard.
Yeah, as a teenager I was, but even as a teenager I was listening to pretty obscure artists and people like Benny Joy and stuff, which not a lot of people know about.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still, of course, into Eddie Cochran and Little Richard. But I was still, too, finding artists that were not as well known, too.
And I would imagine that you also got into, punk rock right around that time.
Actually, I never got into the punk movement, surprisingly. But when I heard something from the punk bands that was good, I knew that it was. And me and my friends had a lot of, hilarious moments listening to a few punk records. And, we still joke about them today. And anything that's, really good. I guess the bands from back then, the one that I did listen to, though, was X, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure.
Yeah.
You've also got Exene Cervenka on this record, too.
Yeah, and it's an honor to have her, yeah.
How long were you working on this record?
Just a few weeks. We were actually really pressed for time. We were supposed to get it done within 2 weeks, but we actually had to leave and head out on tour and come back. And so it was sort of done, and it was done 1 week here and 1 week there, and then we had to ask for more time. And of course, with records, you'd like as much time as you need.
Sure.
But with the budget that we have, we have to get it done pretty quickly.
Well, even with that short span of time, you got some great people on here with you. Rick Miller of Southern Culture on the Skids, and Cat Power, Exene Cervenka I mentioned, Nico Case is on a track. What did you sit around and come up with a wish list?
Well, with me and my sister and my manager, we sat down and talked about who we could get, and Rick he only lives a few miles from my house. We had done some shows with Southern Culture, so it wasn't a hassle to get him. And Exene was the only one that could travel to our hometown, and Nico and Cat Power did their recordings in Tucson, Arizona, and Los Angeles.
I don't want to give the impression that this is like a duets record or anything like that.
Well, I've never done a duets record, and so I wasn't quite sure how it was done, but I wanted to give them, on some things as much vocal time as they could do,
One of my favorite tracks on the record is a duet. It's the song with Cat Power. You guys covered Love Letters, so why don't we hear a bit of that from the new Dex Romweber Duo album, Ruins of Berlin, and then we'll come back and we'll chat some more with Dex. But check this out. This is new. And that right there is the Dex Romweber Duo, along with Cat Power, covering Love Letters, a song made famous by Kitty Lester back in 1962. And Elvis Presley covered that. He covered it twice, actually, that song. We're, of course, talking to Dexter Romweber. And how did this all come about, working with your sister in this new duo after Flat Duo Jets broke up?
I was playing with my friend Sam. He took over after Crow had left.
Mm-hmm.
And we ran for a couple years ourselves and released 2 records. And but he ran into some trouble at home that he had to get back to, and he couldn't really travel on the road too much. And Sarah was really raring to go, you know.
Sure. And
she had told me that, you know, whenever I needed her, she would definitely step in. So the timing just ended up right.
You know, there's a Flat Duo Jets movie that came out. Well, it's a movie about the band and also about you.
Yeah.
And is there a DVD release date or anything for that?
No, the producers haven't released it like that to the public, although a lot of people ask me about it. And, you know, they'd really do well if they released it to people, but it's just been showing in, like, art houses and film festivals, but not to the general public. I think they're showing it out there somewhere.
Yeah. Let me ask you, do you have a favorite track on this new record, Ruins of Berlin?
Well, I like a lot of them. I like, you know, I like Lonesome Train. I like Camellia's Gone and Ruins of Berlin, but maybe my favorite is Lookout, the opening track.
I like that one, too, because that one sort of explodes right off the record, you know?
Yeah, it does. Sure it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put it on, and I said, oh, we're in for a ride, you know?
Well, the record is definitely a ride, that's for sure.
Yeah. All your records have been like that, though, you know, going back a ways to, you know, the Flat Duo Jets days. Do you mind talking about Flat Duo Jets? Or?
Oh, not at all, not at all.
Okay, because you never know. Some people are like, you know, that's the past, and I don't want to talk about, you know.
Yeah, I don't see my former member Crow much, except maybe in odd dreams throughout the night. But no, I don't really. I don't keep in contact with the former members. But we had a hell of a run. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, it was a good 15 years, which is longer than most, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, the great thing about your music, whether it's Flat Duo Jets or the new album, I should get that in again, Ruins of Berlin by the Dex Romweber Duo out on Bloodshot Records, the great thing about your stuff is that you can play it across many different formats, you know, whether it be rockabilly or punk or Americana, even some country in there.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I mean, me and Sarah really wanted to make a record that wasn't just a typical neo-rockabilly record. You know, we picked a lot of different genres, and that's the kind of, you know, that's the kind of records I like that span a lot of history of stuff, you know.
Well, once again, Dex, thanks for being on the show. And if you out there want to keep up with what the Dexter Romweber Duo are doing, you can visit their MySpace site, which is myspace.com/Dexter Romweber Duo. And we're going to close this little segment out with track 1 off the new album, Ruins of Berlin, and one of Dex's favorites, one of mine too. This is Lookout.
Great. Well, Ghosty, listen, thanks a lot for calling.